Okay, I've been making a bunch of lists for you lately, BookTube. Hope you've been enjoying that. I heard that that's something that's very popular on here that I don't tend to do a lot of. I really prefer to take books one at a time. I think they deserve it. However, I picked this up at the library. It's the 100 Novels That Changed the World. And I'm a little surprised by the choices because this is quite recent. This book is from 2023, so very recent. Now, in their defense, I will say that they stuck very closely to, a conservative definition of what a novel is, and they also are trying to find novels that had impact more than just sort of like to say the best novels. Nonetheless, by my count, and you can verify this, I'll take you through the list. Excuse me, by my count, they were all English, written in English, except a couple Spanish, Don Quixote and 100 Years of Solitude, a couple German, or maybe just one, Metamorphosis, and whatever the Unbearable Lightness of Being was written in, Czech maybe, and then, let's see, almost all the non-English ones were French. So seven in French. And then one in Japanese, which you see at the beginning is really the only one in a non-European language. The other popular ones were Russian. You got 3 Russians. We got Crime and Punishment, War and Peace, and The Life of Ivan Dinovich. Life and Death, or Day in the Life. That's right. And I'm pretty sure Falls Apart was written in English, as well as the 3 Indian novels included. So heavy on the English, and only 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, only 16 or 17 by female authors. So I was quite surprised at that. But I can't really fault many of the choices. Some at the very end are, their time will tell, I guess, right? But so anyway, it begins with Tale of Genji, so arguably the first novel. So that's a great start, right? We've got a female author. We got Japan. Don Quixote is number 2. You know I'm never going to argue with that. And then Robinson Crusoe. Okay. Next, we have Gulliver's Travels. Tom Jones. Very funny novel if you've not read it. Highly recommend it for a good laugh, along with Tristram Shandy. Why were we off to such a great start with comedy in our first novels? And now we've gone full circle to all trauma literature nowadays. Let's see if you recognize this one, The Castle of Otranto. So that did have an impact. It impacted like Frankenstein and all those others. Got the Pride and Prejudice here, so coming in pretty high. But I guess it's more organized by early, right? Of course, we got Frankenstein. Like that cover, it's quite interesting. Ivanhoe, which I read as a boy. Walter Scott, definitely influential, arguably invented historical fiction. We say this always in the European context because there's almost always something older in China, for example. Okay, Perigorio, we got our first Frenchie in here. Balzac, human comedy. Could have picked, a number of novels from him. Count in Monte Cristo, that was the Alexandre Dumas pick that they chose. Over 3 Musketeers and all that. Jane Eyre. Emily Bronte. So, in the beginning, I was like, oh, great. We've got a lot of female authors. But then it sort of stopped. Vanity Fair here. Pilgrim's Progress was not in this. I thought of it because that's where the title comes from. Pilgrim's Progress was novelesque, I think, and quite early and influential. David Copperfield was the choice for Dickens. Every author just got one novel in it. This book is Scarlet Letter. I think Pride and Prejudice is the only one of only two that remained on my list, which I'll share with you in a minute. Moby Dick. The Americans are in on the scene now. Madame Bovary, of course. Madame Bovary and Fleur de Mal, pretty much at the same time, really did a number to their respective genres. Although I can never come to love Madame Bovary as much as people do. So Les Mis, here's Colette, the famous, image from the musical. Here's our Verne. They chose Journey to the Center of the Earth over 20,000 Leagues, or one of the other ones, Journey Around the World. 80 Days in a Balloon or whatever. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. The Mad Tea Party. Crime and Punishment. Okay, now we're coming into the Russians. Little Women is in there. So another female author. War and Peace. And Middlemarch, of course, made it. So that's great. And Huck Finn. You can see these are very conservative choices. I mean, I guess they can argue that that is because of impact. However, these impacted in the tradition in which they impacted. But if you look at other literary traditions, there are different impactful stories or novels. Three Men in a Boat, I thought was a very interesting choice. Very funny. I love it, but it's not usually on people's sort of tops. Test of the D'Urbervilles. Dower. Picture of Dorian Gray. This is kind of short for their definition of novel, so I guess they just really wanted to get Oscar Wilde in. H.G. Wells, is that our first sci-fi? No, we had Frankenstein, of course. Dracula. Hound of the Baskervilles. Ambassadors. Was there Henry James that they chose? That was a hard to pick one for him. This is In Search of Lost Time. You can see all the volumes. À la recherche du temps perdu. The Metamorphosis. So I have it on good authority that it wasn't ever said that he was actually a cockroach, just a certain type of, some kind of bug. I don't know how it became that it's always a cockroach. It's like that big fight over what it was that's scuttling across the floors of ancient seas. Was it a lobster or a crab? People get into fights over that, literary scholars. Ulysses. So there you go. Is Ulysses a novel? Passage to India. Great Gatsby. We will get some Indian fiction later on. Sun Also Rises was their choice for Hemingway. There you see the bullfight, of course. Lady Chatterley's Lover. Now that's an interesting cover. Getting away from the scandal. Orlando for Virginia Woolf. I agree with that. I think that's the other one that's on my list. Brave New World. Huxley. I prefer Penguin. Island. Claudius. That's not on everybody's list, but not a super controversial choice. Rebecca, of course, is another female author. Wodehouse. So this is two comic novels that are often overlooked that did get into this list. So I give them great credit for that. Agatha Christie. And then There Were None was the choice for her. The Big Sleep. So here we have detective fiction. Grapes of Wrath. A lot of Nobels made it in, but a lot did not make it in. Camus' Stranger. Bridehead Revisited. It's another funny one. 1984. Oh, good selection of rough sci-fi. And fantasy. Here's Narnia. Catcher in the Rye is in there. Now, see, there I would say, really, you have to tell me out there, BookTube, is Catcher in the Rye super influential outside of America? I'm not sure it's so big in Europe. Certainly not in the world literature. Three Musketeers. The Lord of the Rings. I guess there were 3 books. I don't know what maybe. Okay, Lord of the Flies. Everybody's pick for Golding. What a pity. He wrote so many other really much better stories. Graham Greene's The Quiet American. Glad he made it in. And Lolita. Love it or hate it, it is influential. Jack Kerouac's On the Road. I just did a video on him. Things Fall Apart. Africa is in the book, finally. Naked Lunch. There again, how influential really is Naked Lunch? Not so sure. Kill a Mockingbird. Catch-22. Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. Or Denisovich, probably. The Golden Notebook by Doris Lessing. A honker of a read, but well worth it. Clockwork Orange, okay, I definitely don't want that one in here. I hope that's not an influence. It's awful. The Spy, I mean, it's very well done, but it's so horrible feeling. The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, Le Carré, wow, Dune. So you can see that they are, I think what they're doing here is trying to see things that had like a bigger influence, maybe outside of books, outside of literature, like into, pop culture, right? Wide Sargasso Sea, however, now we're into a super literary, self-referential book, right? So I'm not sure exactly what all they're doing. Valley of the Dolls, I haven't read, so you'll have to tell me what you think about its inclusion. I was a little surprised to find it ahead of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, 100 Years of Solitude, influenced, a continent and a half of people. Not sure how many have read The Dolls House. Slaughterhouse 5 for Vonnegut. So glad he made it in. But why does Tom Robbins never come in? Philip Roth is there with Portnoy's Complaint. Again, I don't know. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I mean, I guess it was influential in journalism. Roots. There was a massive mini series of Roots when I was growing up, when there wasn't much choice on TV and everyone watched it. Color Purple. There are a few writers of color from England, States mainly. The Unbearable Lightness of Being. So there's our Kundera. Kundera. Yeah, Czech. He is Czech. Okay, so Rick wrote that in Czech. Margaret Atwood's there. I Am Maid's Tale. Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit. Beloved. It's a choice for Toni Morrison. I always prefer to pick Song of Solomon, but that's just me. V for Vendetta. I don't think that's really super influential. Satanic Verses, I think could be, should be, would be. I don't know. Above and Beyond the Controversy. Although I prefer Midnight Children. Kazuo Ishiguro for them. That's the Remains of the Day one. Joy Luck Club. Now, I love Joy Luck Club. And, it's great that it's included. And I think it's somewhat influential. Don't know how well it's known even in China, outside of the States. But, nothing from China. I mean, really, they have such a literate culture for a bazillion years. So here we get into some writers from the subcontinent. Suitable Boy, Vikram Seth. I might be wrong if one of them was originally written not in English, but I think they were all English writers. Rowling and Harry Potter. God of Small Things. That's Arundhati Roy. All right, The Girl with the Pearl Earring. Now we're getting into current time, so it's hard to know what is going to be really impactful. I'm not so sure on that one. Atonement, I know many people really will argue for that one. Life of Pi, I don't think will be super influential. Kite Runner, a lot of these feel like they've already had their moment and sort of passed. The buzz is past. Cloud Atlas, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Cormax, McCarthy, They Chose the Road. I definitely am not impressed by The Road at all. Half of Yellow Sun. Okay, we got Adichi in there. I do have a video on one of her books. Wolf Hall. Yeah, probably will be somewhat impactful. Milkman, I can't even tell you anything about it, so No opinion to offer, nor on girl, woman, other. Although I've seen people have videos about them. Here, Hardy at the very end. Oh no, we already had Hardy. This is the end of the selections. So that's our 100th. So we opened and ended with female representation, non, white European representation. But yeah, so let me tell you what I did, and then you can just read the list, I think, rather than me just going through it point by point, because that'd take a while. So I did my list in order of the population of the countries, but I had to go almost to 200 to get 100 authors that I had read. And even with that, I cheated, but I think all my cheats were limited to a couple rather than several, so 2 at most. So 2 that I haven't read at all are asterisked in my list below. They are in the top 50, so that I can at least have read the top 50. And then in the bottom 50, there's a number of substitutions. Those will be the titles that are in brackets. And then next to them, you'll see the author and work that I chose instead. Some of them were easy to motive, or how should I say, thematically chosen, and some were just plugged into slots. So I had a couple from also that I'm currently reading, or I don't really do TBR, but that kind of thing. Couple that aren't natives of the country, but outsiders in some way writing about it. A couple are not novels, so plays or poetry collection. I think maybe there's one essay collection as well. So anyway, as you get the idea, I allowed myself a couple cheats in order to get to 100 different countries with titles that I had read. I don't count the epic stories, which many countries I chose them, because I've read a lot of those because I love them. And I would argue they are, not novelesque perhaps, but they are long narrative stories. So a lot of them do happen to be rhyme, but I don't count those as poems. But yeah, so you'll see some of my usual suspects. You see a lot of the Nobel Prize winners, because I've read that list. And then obviously with the number of countries represented, it's going to be majority writers of color. So that's great. You get a lot of Africans, a lot of Asians, a lot of Latin Americans, just a few islanders down at the very bottom. Oh, I also cheated with a couple of little extras, you'll see. But my representation of females fell short of what I had hoped for. And if I'd have really, really thought harder, I might have been able to come up with a couple more, authors, women authors for a couple more of these countries. But there you go. I did my best with it. If you can think of any female authors that I might have read, how are you going to know what I read? But anyway, that I should read, then to plug in some of these countries, that would be great. But anyway, yeah, so I really enjoyed this. As usual, I go overboard. So I went into the list, and boy, did I give myself a task getting 100 stories from around all these countries of the world. There are various different lists of the populations in order in the on the web. So I just chose the one that I used. So they have different orders, some of them, but it's roughly the same. So there it is. Enjoy or critique my list if you don't enjoy it. I do think, hopefully, I think I did a little bit better job of representation than this book. If you'd just given me this list and asked me to guess what year the book was written that made that list, I would not have guessed the 2000s. That list could have been made almost definitely in the last century. All right, so there it is. Thank you very much for your kind attention. And yeah, please do let me know what you think of my list below. Hope you enjoy. Bye-bye.